individuals. We know that you're going to see them in the days ahead as you did our last Rising Stars. These are the Rising Stars. This is our party's future. And with that, it is my honor to introduce the chairman of the Republican National Committee, a great partner and somebody that does truly understand the importance of strong, principled, and empowered women across the country. Reince Priebus.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. And as always, appreciate all of your work and our great partnership together. The Rising Stars program is something that we started about a year ago, and it is part of our effort, on top of highlighting different voices in our party. It's part of our more formal effort to have different people and train different people to start speaking for our party, both regionally and nationally, that we show America that we have a party that looks like America. And we try to find dynamic people across the country that can help us achieve that goal, that want to step up to the plate and lead this country. And so that's what this program is all about, and we're really proud of where we're at. I wanted to quickly introduce the folks that you see up here and just give you a little bit of background about each of them. First of all, to my right, to your left, Chelsea Henry serves as senior advisor to the elected chief financial officer of the state of Florida. In 2012, at the Republican National Convention, she was highlighted in National Journal, National Review, TV One, and MTV, among others. She was a speaker at CPAC 2013, selected for Red Alert Politics 30 Under 30, and recognized as one of BET's 10 Republicans to watch. Chelsea is a serial entrepreneur and says she is a perpetual optimist when it comes to the grand old party. That's very good. You need to be. Chelsea holds a JD from Florida Coastal School of Law and an undergraduate degree from the University of North Florida. So please welcome Chelsea Henry. To the right of Chelsea, and it's maybe appropriate, I don't know, because you'll see the bio. Allison Howard is a conservative activist who speaks on pro-life and pro-family issues. Allison has appeared on radio and TV outlets across the country, including The Sean Hannity Show, Fox and Friends, and NPR. She currently serves as communications director for Concerned Women for America and represents CWA at colleges, high schools, and conferences around the country. So please welcome Allison Howard. Now, to your right, notice I avoided the left. To your right, Alex Smith is national chair for the College Republican National Committee, the CRs, making her the first female elected as national CR chairman in its 120-year history. She's a native of Pennsylvania and a graduate of the Catholic University of America. She formerly served as national co-chairman during the 2012 cycle, as chairman of the D.C. Federation of College Republicans, and as chapter leader for the Catholic University College Republicans. She's currently a student at Seton Hall University School of Law. Please welcome Chairman Alex Smith. And next to her is Kimberly Yee. She represents Arizona. Thank you. Alex, why is it important for Republican candidates to engage actively with young voters? But I think most importantly, what do you think some misconceptions are that we tend to have about voters in college?
Thank you so much, Chairman Priebus and Co-Chairman Day, for this tremendous honor. These are two of the strongest youth allies that we have in the conservative movement, so I thank them so much for their support of college Republicans. I go around busting youth vote myths all day. And, a couple of them are that, for example, that the youth vote was an Obama phenomenon, that younger voters turned out for the president because he was cool, and they're not going to turn out that way again, so we don't need to pay that much attention to them. Well, that's not true. The youth vote has actually grown 1 percentage point per presidential cycle for the past 4 presidential elections in a row. It started out in 2000 at about 16%, went up to 19% in 2012. Let's not give the president credit for a trend that started under President Bush. The youth vote is only growing. Growing as a percentage of our electorate, so we need to be attuned to the needs of younger voters. Another one is that younger voters will get more conservative as they get older. That's also a myth. I mean, we saw that the age demographic 30 to 34 was the only age demographic to improve for the president a second time around in 2012. So voters aren't growing up and getting more conservative. They're not going and buying a home. They're not becoming parents, these traditional things that might make one more conservative because they can't afford it. So again, just being sensitive to that as a political party. Once a younger voter votes with a national political party twice in a presidential election, they're likely to vote that way for the rest of their life. So we really need to capture them now. These are now two rounds of votes for President Obama, so we need to be especially sensitive to that. But finally, the biggest myth out there is that younger voters are liberal. They're not. The CRNC did some research in 2013, and what we found is that younger voters agree with us on size and scope of government. What they don't do is they don't connect these fundamental values about spending and the size of government to the Republican Party brand. And so that's where we need to come in, and we need to bridge that gap.
Thank you. Okay, so Alex, someone's running for president, and they come to you. And they say, I want to win over college students. Tell me how I can get it done. What would you tell them or her?
You know, the answer is a simple one. And one of the things that we found out in our research as a committee last year was to go where younger voters are and give them something to share. What does that mean? It means that channels and messages matter. Channels, I mean online. Going where younger voters are, again, going to Hulu, going to Pandora, going to Spotify. If you're talking to younger voters on television, on radio, or through direct mail, you're not reaching them. They're not on those channels. But they are online. They are consuming content in real time online, and that's where we need to capture them. And, you know, by channels, I also mean the campus. I always say to candidates when we have the opportunity to speak about best practices and tactics is that if you're too afraid to go to a campus to, you know, and because of the environmental club is going to come out and protest you or something, a couple of kids with a banner, you know, you are leaving the weight of our work as a party on the shoulders of 18-year-old college Republicans who have to carry it alone. So candidates must go to campus. They must engage with younger voters, again, where they are. And then the messaging matters, too. I'll give you a perfect example. In our research, what we found was the term big government was a nebulous one with younger voters. They didn't understand what we meant when we asked them in our focus groups. We said, how do you feel about a candidate who proposes to fight big government? They're like, government, you know, big government, you mean like the windows there are too many windows, the buildings are too big, what are you talking about? Problem is, for younger voters, big isn't scary. Big is this. Big is getting a million followers on Twitter and being able to send a message out to all of them in an instant. What is scary to younger voters is an intrusive government. So again, just about the language that we use to describe this. If we talk about reducing government spending, if we talk about fixing big entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare, the things that we mean when we say big government. We just say them differently to younger voters in a language that's relevant to them. That's what's really going to matter. But, I mean, what matters the most is just talking to younger voters. I mean, it's just a basic tenet of human-to-human interaction. If someone's not talking to you, they don't think that you care about them very much. Right. And, you know, we need to be talking to younger voters and showing them that we want to earn their votes as a party.
Thank you. Alex.
Sure. So I represent college Republicans. We don't take a formal stance on issues, but what I will say is that this is an issue that we studied carefully in our 2013 research. If voting had started at age 30, Governor Romney would be president today. So the youth vote moved the election to President Obama. A growing number of that youth vote is young Hispanics. So this was an issue that we studied carefully in 2013, and it's one where we found that the language of compassion and dignity could go a long way to just starting a dialogue with younger voters, being careful about the way we choose our words and being diligent about explaining our positions.
Perfect. Any other questions? Paul. Any other questions? Paul.
Paul Smith from Florida. I'd like for each one to comment on what Governor Huckabee said at lunch today. Democrats have promoted this myth about a war on women, and he suggested, and saying another way, that maybe we have a war for women, and we take the offensive because we've got great rising stars like we have today.
Why don't we start with Alex? This war on women rhetoric, opinions on that?
I'll tell you what. So, when we study the youth vote, when we look at the composition of it, younger single female voters are a huge part of it, and they have unique needs as a demographic. For example, more women are entering into higher education and postgraduate degrees than men at this point. What does that mean? It means that college affordability becomes a very big issue. It means that student loans come to the forefront of everyone's mind, getting a job after graduation. So women are not monolithic voters. They're not centered around just a few issues. And I think that, younger female voters are especially concerned about the state of the economy and in terms of creating a destiny and a future for themselves and for their families.
Kimberly?
When we talk about the youth vote, we're really talking about young female voters. We're talking about young Hispanic voters. Those are huge subsets of what we kind of generally refer to as the youth vote. So, in terms of having someone that will be attractive to both young people and females, or young females, I should say, we're really talking about one and the same when we talk about this demographic. Authenticity is tremendously important to young people, just being who you are. But again, if you're not talking to younger voters where they are about that true self, about your positions, clearly explaining to them, showing that you care by showing up on their campus, by running a thoughtful social media strategy and advertising to them online, then they're not going to be able to see that. So truthfully, the candidate who goes where younger voters are and speaks to them in language that's relevant to them is going to be the candidate that succeeds.
Right. Real and authentic is key, because with the communication that we have now in this country and among young voters, among all of us now, real and close has to be the case in order to make a connection.